Okay, good day, Northern Academy. Uh, I am Ma'am Crystal Groenewald, and today we are looking at study methods and skills, tricks and tips on effective learning and how you can actually, during this time of lockdown at your homes, be effective in your studies. It is very important that you realize that this is not a stay-at-home holiday. This is school time. You have to use it to the best of your ability. It is what you make of it. Okay, so let's get started. So we look at different study skills, how to identify which study skill actually benefits you best. And have you ever stopped to wonder what sets apart the really successful student from the average ones? It's not necessarily how high their IQ is. It is a lot of times how successful they are at studying what they are doing. Okay, so it's very important to discern which study method works best for you. Okay, so being successful in school requires a high level of study skills. Students must first learn these skills, practice them, and develop them effectively. You have time now to decide which study skill works best for you. The quicker you identify what type of learner you are, the better it is for you and the more you can use it later on in life. Good study habits include many different skills like time management, self-discipline, concentration, memorization, organization, and effort. The desire to succeed is important. This is very important. You have to want to do better. You have to want to succeed in life. Your life doesn't end at the end of school. It carries on for many years afterwards. So the work you put in now determines what you are going to do for the rest of your life. It is a big task, but you have to think about that when you are sitting at home studying. Why are you doing this? You are not doing this for your mother, for your father, for your granny, for your cousin. You have to do this for you. You have to study so you can pass grade 12 at the end. Okay, you have to study so you can succeed. Okay. Knowing how you learn best is the first step in developing effective study habits. So you need to decide what type of student are you. Okay, every student's approach to a task is different. Okay, knowing the best study habits is the first step to developing effective study habits. Okay, so you'll find that once you develop effective study habits, the job of studying and learning will become easier. Instead of working harder, you'll start working smarter. Okay, so you have to ask yourself the following question. Am I more inclined to remember something better when I see it, when I hear it, or when I experience or do something? Okay, so those are the three type of students that we sit with. A lot of times you aren't just in one of these boxes. You have to, for instance, hear it and see it and experience it, but you will be able to relate to one more than the other. So let's look at how we can improve those learners as a visual, auditory, or hands-on learner. Okay, so the first type of learner we look at is a visual learner. So how to improve as a visual learner. Visual obviously meaning what you see. So you have to visualize what you are studying. Doesn't matter what subject you are studying. If you close your eyes and after you've studied a chapter and you try and visualize it, your brain will automatically start storing it in the right files. And that is all we want in the end, is for our brains to correctly store the information that we have put in there. We need to start working on a long-term memory instead of a short-term memory. So when we use color in our notes, color pens, highlighters, for example, our brain starts storing it where they recognize the colors. So, for example, if you have your one chapter, you can do it all in one color, that it all gets stored together. And the next chapter or the next part of the work, you do in another color, and your brain will all of a sudden start memorizing the colors with the work you have done and store it correctly into those files. Okay, so even if you don't have highlighters or color pens, underline it with pencil, make little pictures around it that are the same for your brain to recognize it as that work. Okay, so visualize what the instructor or the lecturer is talking about. So in the YouTube channel that we have, when you're listening to your teachers and you're listening to your peers explain things, close your eyes, visualize what they are saying. Make sure you have a picture in your head. If you're studying a subject like business or economics, it is easy for you to actually make a story in your head out of it. So draw pictures and diagrams. Use mind maps in your notes. Mind maps are extremely effective if you are a visual learner. It takes a long time to make an effective mind map, small enough maybe to put in the back of the toilet door, give your one of your siblings one to ask you questions on, put one next to your bed. So everywhere where you go, that you are bombarded by those images, and that'll help your brain to also remember. Use pictures and graphics to reinforce learning. Draw little pictures, make little characters next to it to help you remember what you are learning. Okay, and then learn from videos. This is very easy, made by your teachers now on the YouTube channel. So please go check it out. Make sure that you don't miss anything on the teams, on the WhatsApp groups, on the YouTube channels, so that you get all the work done that needs to be done. So the next one we're looking at is an auditory learner. What does that mean? To hear. Auditory means to hear. So listen to tapes or recordings of your work, of your assignments, of your chapters. Record yourself on your cell phone, reading it out loud. Then listen to it back. Record the teachers explaining or your peers explaining what is going on so you can listen to it back. Read out loud. When you read out loud, you actually are listening to what you are saying. Talk over ideas from class and what you are studying with other learners. Please stay at home when I say talk your ideas over. It's talk to the people in your immediate vicinity. Speak to your classmates over the phone, over WhatsApp, voice notes. Make sure you understand the work, that you are not missing out on anything. Participate in your class discussions. This is very important during this time because we are not sitting in classes. So make sure you participate on the WhatsApp groups, on the email to your lecturer. Make sure that you understand the work, that you are not doing something wrong. Because if you're doing something wrong now, by the time we go back to school, that you've built up and you've remembered that and you've stored it in your brain incorrectly. Also, listen to audio tapes on the subject. Once again, Google, if you don't understand, listen to the YouTube clips. Make sure that you understand it. Okay, so that is as an auditory learner. Okay, so now we look at a hands-on learner. This is a person that is really good with studying while they are busy doing other things, while they are making sure their brain stays active. So as a hands-on learner, and as every learner, we should be active. The more active our bodies are, the more blood it pumps to our brains. Our brains are also just one big muscle. So we need to actually exercise our muscle, our brain, so that it becomes effective. So when you are studying and you're a hands-on learner, stand up, move around while you are studying. Walk around, do some exercises while you are memorizing certain things. It'll help your brain also store it in the right areas, and say, while I was doing jumping jacks, I was reciting the planets of the solar system. So that will help you remember. So take frequent breaks while studying. This is very important, guys. As your age group increases, the less breaks you need to take. So for example, grade 8 learners will study for 45 minutes and maybe take a 15-minute break. Set your alarm, set your timers, make sure somebody tells you 45 minutes is done, stand up, take a break. You don't need to go eat something. Make sure you only take 15 minutes. Don't let that 15 minutes turn into a half an hour, turn into an hour. Make sure you study effectively. Make use of your hands and write things down as you study. Very important. Write things down. The more you write things down, the more you say things out loud, the easier it is going to be to remember. Use your computer or your cell phone to type things out. Be physically active. Experiment with objects. Memorize or drill while you are exercising. Okay? The more you exercise, the more your brain will work. Okay, now hopefully you have identified which type of learner you are, which type of studying would work best for you. Now we are looking at when to study. We are looking at your daily, your weekly, your pre-exam reviews, as well as the peak study times. Okay, so first of all, we look at your daily study times. So every single day you have to study. For a successful student, reads and reviews notes before each class. So before you start your study time, make sure you can remember what happened in the previous class. So you build on each class. Okay? Review your notes immediately after each class to reinforce learning or within a 24-hour period for best recall. So you have to study immediately after class. So before class you go through your notes, and after the class you study for an hour immediately. The quicker you get that work into your brain and file it effectively, the longer it will be there. So studying an hour immediately after your class will do more good in developing an understanding of material as several hours a few days later. Studying shows that as much as 80% of the material learned in class is forgotten within 24 hours if there is no review. So it doesn't help you sit and you read through a chapter and the next day comes and you can't remember what you read the day before. You have to do this effectively. You read your chapter, you study it. After that hour of studying whatever chapter, you maybe write a little test for yourself, you ask somebody to ask you questions about it, you review it. So at the end of every week, you have to go over your notes of the whole week. So every single day's notes that you have made, you go at the end of the week to go over it. So repetition is key in remembering everything. It makes it easier for your brain to create pathways so you can access those memories quicker. For exam start, there are different ways in reviewing how to study for your exams. Obviously, if before classes you study a little bit less than before exams. Exams are very important, so your times will lengthen. So pre-exam studying, these are for between 3 and 5 hours long, with breaks in between, but make sure that one subject is at least studied between 3 and 5 hours long, depending on your age group. Once again, grade 8, 3 hours, grade 12, 5 to 6 hours. The breaks, break your study session into 1 hour blocks, and then at the end of those 5-6 hours, make sure you can write a proper test, get old exam papers, make sure after that one day that you've studied that one subject that you can write a full exam on that. Peak study times, everybody studies at different times. You need to decide where you are most efficient. Some people are morning people, some people are evening people. You have to know when you can study optimally. Okay, so what this means is with your chores that need to be done, or playtime needs to be scheduled, you have to make sure that you set out enough time for your studies. Okay, so if you're an evening person, obviously you study at night, and if you can't find time to study at your peak time, try to study when you are feeling relatively awake and alert. Very important. Do not study straight after you've eaten a meal. You will be quite tired. Make sure you eat small meals when you are going to study, not one large meal. Okay. Now we look at organization. Organization of your time, the plan, prioritize, and schedule. Okay, we also look at your study area and your study plan. Okay, so Organize your time, plan your study time, leave enough time for each of your subjects and more time for difficult subjects, okay? So you know which subjects takes up more time. Maybe your maths you struggle with a lot more than you do with your economics, or you struggle a lot more with your economics than you do with your geography. Make sure you allocate more time to those subjects you are struggling with, okay? About 6 hours of study per week or 2 hours of study for every hour in class. Okay, so every hour you're supposed to have in class, there needs 2 hours of study time for that hour. If you're a slow reader or you have other study problems, you may need more time to plan. That's why it's so important to organize your study times. Okay, prioritize your time and put off other activities to allow for adequate study time. You know what daily chores you have to do during the day. You know how much time you have scheduled for your studies. Don't waste that time by sitting, watching TV, playing on your phone, and not using your time effectively. You may find it necessary to postpone or eliminate certain activities, okay? So take away time from your daily TV, or maybe do not go and play on your phone. Prioritize your time. Okay. Keep a weekly and monthly schedule planner in which you record due dates, assignments, papers. This is for after the lockdown, that you make sure you are ahead of your schedule. Transfer important dates from the syllabus on your weekly or monthly planner. Like the test and exam dates we give you, make sure that is in your planners. Okay. So your study area, you need to organize your study area. Okay, keep notes and handouts from class in a binder, in a flip file. It is useful because you can add pages to it, copy notes that you've missed from other students, and add handouts from class in the proper sections. Okay, you make sure you have all the material that you need to study that subject. You can study in an area that is set up for serious study. This is extremely important. You need to allocate an area for yourself, for your studies that you see as school. Okay, have your tools for study, your notebooks, your textbooks, your pens, your pencils, your computers, your dictionary, your thesaurus, all of those things that are needed for your studies, that you do not get interrupted every time you have to go fetch another pencil or a dictionary or so on, that you have that in your study area. Be sure the area is well lit, there's enough light for you, free from noise and distractions, and not too comfortable. Don't sit on the couch and study. Don't lie on your bed and study. Okay? You have to sit on a chair, by a table, try and mimic the school environment. Okay, control for interruptions from phone ringing, doors opening and closing, and people coming and going. Try to study at the same place every day. Okay, this is very important. Put your cell phone under your bed, so that you don't get distracted by the WhatsApps, the messages, all of those things. Because every time you get distracted, your brain has to refocus once you put that phone down. And it is much harder to refocus than to stay focused. Okay. So make sure you have a study plan. Make sure every day you know what you are going to study, and keep to the study plan. Make an hourly study plan and try your very best to keep to it. If you do not succeed to keep to that study plan, make sure that you add it to the next day so that you don't fall behind. So now we look at how you are able to move information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. Every single one of you has crammed before a test, and as soon as you walk out of that exam or test venue, you forget everything that you've just written down. And this is not beneficial to you, because eventually you're going to write exams about that section of work. You're going to build onto that section of work in class. And the more information you push into your long-term memory, the less you have to re-study things. So things like using mind maps and summarizing all your work after every single class's lesson. helps you to move things from the short term to the long term memory. So we have to visualize, we have to try to see what we are reading, get a feel for the subject, make it come alive to you. Okay, make it as interesting as possible for yourself. If you read about insects, try to feel them wiggle in your hand and imagine the sounds that they might make. The more senses you use, the stronger you make the neutral pathways to your brain and the better you remember the information. It is very important that you visualize, you close your eyes, try and see the actual images in front of you. Okay, you need to highlight, use markers, underline, define your text. If you do not understand a word, go look it up in the dictionary. The more effort you put in trying to figure out your work, the easier it's going to be for you to remember. Okay, make it a tool to work with. Write questions and comments in the margins. Even though you might not be able to resell it, consider the benefits. You'll be using the text as a study tool. Okay, talk about it. Talk about what you've just learned. Ask questions. Make sure you share information with people. This helps to reinforce learning and proves whether or not you understand the information. If you can explain a topic to somebody else, that means you understand the topic and you can write about it. Just reading over a certain chapter over and over does not necessarily mean you understand the topic. Okay? Now you have studied the topic, but understanding it is a totally different situation. Okay, just studying a subject doesn't mean that you actually know what's going on. You have to understand it. Okay, so review. What we mean by review is repetition, repetition, repetition. Go over your subject over and over and over and over again. Refine your notes. Make notes, and after you go back to your notes, redo the notes and include things that you think are more important and take out things that are less important to you, that you understand easier. So rework your notes, because by the end, those notes are going to come in handy when it comes to the end of your exams. So we have just spoken about your notes. So we're looking at how to use these notes. Okay, so if you're taking notes is a weak area for you, review the study skills and the notes taking. Okay, so use the following tips. Add to your notes. Like I said, rework your notes. Okay, define terms that you've heard in class. When you hear unfamiliar words in class, write them down in your notes as best you can and then look them up later, getting the correct spelling and definition for your notes. If you make effort in trying to find out things in your subjects, then it'll actually help you understand the subject better. Clean up or rewrite your notes. If the notes are too scribbled or too difficult to read, copy them again, redo them, make them pretty, use highlighters, make mind maps. Summarize your notes at the end of each chapter or topic. This is very important, that after every section that you have to have a summarized notes to make it easier for you. So create review tools. Now these tools help us in actually making our notes. Okay, so we use concept maps. So these are mind maps. This is where you create a visual diagram of your notes with a center topic in the middle of the paper and the remaining concepts branch out onto the sides. Okay, your mind map should not be extremely complicated. Looking at a mind map quickly, you should be able to see exactly what that mind map is about. Okay, so use study checklists, make a list of all the topics you're going to study and check it off. This is extremely satisfying when you get to check off things that you have done. So make a checklist of everything you have to get done that day, and after every section you are done, check it off. And give yourself rewards after you've done everything you've checked off. If you haven't checked it off, you have to unfortunately move it to the next day so you don't forget. Okay, you can use things like flashcards, are extremely helpful in certain subjects. Obviously, all of these creative tools don't work for every single subject. Some tools work for some subjects and others don't. Okay, so you have to figure out which tools work best for which subjects. You can use memory tricks like rhyming, creative sentences, and acronyms. So rhyming sentences is things like in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. So this is an easy way to remember which months have 30 days. Okay. So, creative sentences. My very eager mother just served us 9 potatoes. Okay, this is the planets in the order of the sun. Okay, so there's other rhymes that go to that. So, make yourself creative sentences. And acronyms. What are acronyms? It is when you use the first letter of every word and make a word out of it. For example, Roy G, BIV is the colors of the rainbow. So Roy, red, orange, yellow. G for green, BIV, blue, indigo, violet. Okay, so use acronyms where you can in subjects where you have to remember a lot of facts, okay, for a certain topic. This really helps and it makes it easier for you. So that is all I have for you today. Please, if there are any queries, ask your teachers, send an email, send a WhatsApp. Make sure that you communicate, that you don't get left behind. Okay? Please just always remember that we are here for you. You are not alone. You don't have to do this on your own, that we are still your teachers. We are working just as hard with you through this whole situation. So please, make sure that you do your part so we can do our part when we meet each other again at school. We can't wait to see you. We actually miss you guys so much. So please be safe and remember that you are the only one that you can push yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. Okay, keep safe and God bless.